You've been eating 1,500 calories a day. You're tracking everything. You're lifting 4 times a week, and the scale won't move. If anything, you look softer than you did when you were eating more. You think you need to cut harder. You don't. You're not lazy, and you're not undisciplined. Your metabolism is broken, and the fitness industry has been telling you to fix it by breaking it even deeper. And by the end of this video, you'll understand the exact mechanism that's been holding your fat loss hostage. You'll see the primary research 95% of fitness coaches have never read, and I'll give you the exact protocol I use to reverse it in 60 to 90 days called metabolic priming before we ever cut a single calorie. My name is Nolan Olm, and I'm a current pro football player for the Toronto Argonauts and former D1 football captain at Eastern Washington University and founder of Make It Happen Coaching, where I've coached over 100 plus former athletes through this exact same problem because I lived it. I ate 4,000 calories a day in season, then cut to 1,800 after, and broke my own metabolism doing it, and then had to rebuild it through the research that I'm going to walk you through today. So today, here's what we're going to cover. 5 different things. 1, why eating less and moving more is wrong for your specific body. 2, 3 scientific truths your body is doing right now. 3, 4 reasons former athletes get hit harder than the general population. And then 4, metabolic priming and its 3 phases. And then 5, I'm going to give you 3 actionable takeaways that you can run today. So if you're a former athlete in your 30s, you've never actually been told the physiology behind why your body is fighting you. And after this video, you'll understand. So let's get into it. Okay, here we go, guys. I'm going to walk you through this step by step, and it's all going to make sense. And if you guys have any questions, always comment down below, and we can talk about it in future videos. But eat less and move more. Sounds like math. Calories in, calories out, right? Like, it's super obvious. But here's what I need you to hear, and what I'm going to spend the rest of this video proving, is that eat less and move more is correct in a closed system. Now, what do I mean by that? Your body is not a closed system. Your body is, an adaptive, intelligent organism that fights restriction harder than almost anything else. Because for 200,000 years, we go back to the beginning of human evolution, a sudden drop in caloric intake meant one thing. You hadn't eaten in a while, and there was a famine. And the bodies that survived the famine were the ones that ruthlessly downregulated every system possible to conserve energy and, guess what? Store fat. And so you're the descendant of those survivors. So when you cut calories aggressively, your body doesn't just say, oh yeah, let's get shredded, let's burn fat. Your body says, uh-oh, we're starving. Let's reduce energy expenditure. Let's reduce our thyroid output. Let's reduce testosterone. Let's increase cortisol. Let's hoard fat and burn muscle and survive until food returns. I don't know about you, but that does not sound like a good, mixture for what we're really trying to do. So it's not a discipline problem. Like I said, it's an evolutionary problem. That's how our body worked. And so the new belief that we're going to be installing in you is that you cannot shred a broken metabolism. You got to prime your metabolism first. Restriction without priming deepens this dysfunction that we're showing right here. Priming reverses it. And that's what metabolic priming does. And that's what we're going to break down for the rest of this video. So here we go. The mechanism. There's 3 scientific truths happening in your body right now. And if you've been restricting calories at length, this is you. I'm going to walk you through each one with the primary research. So truth number 1. Your body fights weight loss harder than weight gain. So this is called adaptive thermogenesis, as you guys can see right here. The research on it is bulletproof. It was pretty incredible, the study that they did. As you guys can see here, it's down below. These guys ran a foundational study in the 90s, and here's what they found. When a subject loses just 10% of their body weight, their resting metabolic rate drops by approximately 0.57 megajoules per day. What does that mean? That's 136 calories per day, beyond what's predicted from body composition. So think about that. That number is critical. And when we look at, I've showed you guys this multiple times before, when I bring you guys over to our little model here. Here we go. Right? we're burning 70% of our calories from our metabolism. Only 5% is through our exercise activity thermogenesis, which is we burning calories, through working out and cardio. 5%, guys. Like that's nothing. Then we got our thermic effect if you're eating your protein and NEAT. But the NEAT is also affected really by this, because the more calories you have, the more your body's going to fidget and be able to move around and not worry about these different things, right? It's a lot like what happened with these guys, right? Like you can see I'm even up here too. I was in a really similar position. But if we look specifically at Jared, who's a founder, father of two, you can see here, he was running on a system that was protecting itself, that was storing its fat. And what we actually did, we had him eat more food first, and then we went into a cut. We used this this priming method to make his body signal safety. Because as we can see here, guys, this is huge. You might not seem like a big difference, but this is a huge difference. That number is critical. These people, they lost muscle and fat. And so that explains some of the metabolic drop, but there's also an additional drop on top of that. Your body is suppressing its energy expenditure beyond what regular physics would predict. And so that doesn't just snap back when the diet ends. The people that they followed the people who maintained their weight loss for over a year, and the adaptation persisted, which is nuts. Okay, truth number 2 here, guys. And I've talked about this on the channel before, and this is super important. Metabolic adaptation can persist for years. Think about this. If you've been chronically restricting for 3 years, you don't just have a current metabolism problem, you have layers of accumulated adaptation. And here's one of the most telling or brutal, another way to put it, studies on this topic. These guys, and I've talked about this before, the Biggest Loser 6-year follow-up study. 6 years after the show ended, during the show, these contestants, right, they lose an average of 58 kg or 128 pounds. And, it's incredible. You see the finale, and it's so cool to see the before and after. And I mean, the whole show is they're in the gym, they're going crazy, there's money on the line. And these contestants, right, they lose this. But 6 years later, they showed that they've regained an average of 41 of those 58 kgs. So, over 100 pounds. They were still lighter than baseline, but their resting metabolic rate, measured in the lab, as you guys can see here, was approximately 500 calories per day below what was predicted from their current body composition. 500 calories. We're talking about, that's a whole meal a day, guys. That's insane. 6 years later, too. 6 years later. This is the extreme of what chronic restriction does. It doesn't just slow you down today. It writes a metabolic ceiling that's going to follow you for years to come if you don't go about it the right way, if you don't introduce these priming phases. So in the interest of being honest with you, with this study, right, Kevin Hall himself published a paper in 2022 where, re-examining whether this metabolic adaptation is the primary barrier to weight loss maintenance. And he argues, obviously, the picture is more nuanced, that the energy compensation through appetite regulation may matter more than just the, RMR drop. So this is what I mean, but this is contested science, right? Like, the exact mechanism is still being, figured out, but the core finding, right, is that your body resists this sustained weight loss through multiple pathways. And it's not just obese populations, guys. I want to get that super clear. If we come over to here, there was another study that was done back in 2015 and 2019 as well. And it was in healthy non-obese adults at 3 universities. So even at a moderate 12% mean caloric restriction over 2 years, the participants showed that significant drops in this resting metabolic rate beyond, what the body composition would have predicted. And most importantly, guys, you guys seen the video on T3, a decrease in active thyroid hormone T3. And then its resulting reductions in core body temperature. So in healthy people without obesity, with a moderate fat, for 2 years, it's just, this is crazy. Sustained for 24 months, as you guys can see here, 2 years. So your body fights restriction at every level. And that's not a story, it's supported by the research. So when we come over to this T3 here, we'll go into it a little bit quickly. Got a whole video. You guys can go check that on the channel. Go into that if you guys have more questions about T3, what it is. This is the key here. Your thyroid is down regulating at the tissue level. So this is the thing that almost nobody talks about, because it requires you to understand how the thyroid hormone actually works. And like I said, 95% of fitness coaches don't understand this. And all the base level certifications, they don't teach you this. This requires a higher level understanding of nutrition. When when you get thyroid checked at your doctor, right? You guys just seen that in your blood work. They measure TSH and sometimes T4, occasionally T3 in your blood. And they look at those numbers and they'll tell you that you're fine. But here's the problem. That biology happens at the tissue level, not, the serum level with these measurements that they're doing. So Antonio Bianco, who's the leading researcher in the world when it comes to thyroid and everything with the thyroid, he has done a ton of research, and what it's shown is that the active thyroid hormone T3 gets produced and inactivated inside your tissues by enzymes that are called deiodinase, okay? And the enzyme that activates T4 to T3 is called D2. The enzyme that inactivates T3, which turns it into biologically inert reverse T3, which is not good, is called D3. So that was a lot of information there. I'll explain it all here. Under chronic caloric restriction, your body upregulates D3 expression. So even if your serum T3 looks okay in your blood work, your tissues are pumping out D3 and inactivating it. So basically what's happening is it's a form of T3, but that's at the serum level, and there's something else going on completely different in a completely different house. These are two different houses of your body. So your blood work can look normal, but your peripheral metabolism is in shutdown mode. And this is why former athletes will come to me saying, my doctor's saying everything's fine, but I feel like, garbage. My body comp is not changing, and my energy is the lowest it's been. Their blood work is reading at the serum level story, but Bianco's research shows what's actually happening at the tissue level, and the tissue level is where we live, okay? So let's go to the 4 drivers here, guys. And if you guys have any questions, like I said, comment down below. Let's get specific with these 4 drivers. When a former athlete fails at fat loss through restriction, there's 4 specific drivers underneath it. So you can find yourself in this list. Number 1, your body remembers eating 4,000 calories a day. So when I was at Eastern, I was eating 4,000 calories. Easy. My metabolism was calibrated to that. Your metabolism was calibrated in college to whatever you ate during your competitive years. And then your sport ends. And overnight, your expenditure drops by 1,000 or maybe even 1,500 calories, because you stop training twice a day, you stop running routes, you sit at a desk, your NEAT goes way down. And most former athletes don't reduce intake gradually. Like, they keep eating like they did in season for years post-graduation. And that's why you have that 20 to 30 pound weight gain that happens. And then at some point around 28 or 30, you panic and you go from 4,000 to 1,800 overnight, and then you wonder why your body breaks. You went from a high fuel athlete to a low fuel, person that's working sedentary at desk, and you're not intentionally creating movement. And so your set point biology is screaming, where is all this extra food? But that's not the situation that you're in. Okay, driver number 2. You're in a textbook case of low energy availability. Like I said, there's 4 different ones, right? Like, so maybe that doesn't resonate. Maybe this one does. So another study that they did, the International Olympic Committee published an update, and it was called Relative Energy Deficiency in Sport. And so this describes a syndrome where inadequate energy intake relative to energy expenditure produces a cascade of hormonal collapse. So what does this mean? Testosterone drops. What's huge for your health, for burning testosterone? Thyroid downregulates. We already talked about that. Cortisol rises. All these things are going to make your body want to bring fat on. Bone density declines. Immune function tanks. Mood degrades. Recovery slows. And this was a consensus statement that was written specifically about competitive athletes, as you guys can see here. But this is what nobody's talking about. The former athletes who restrict after their sports end meet most of the criteria. You still have an high output body. You're still training, just less. and you've cut calories below what your remaining training and life demands. So you're not eating less than you need by general population standards. You're eating less than your specific body with its specific history requires to maintain this hormonal balance. So you're in that low grade reds and you don't even know it. And that's why your testosterone feels off, and that's why you can't sleep, and maybe even your libido is tanked. It's not that you're just getting older. Your body's doing exactly what the science predicts when energy availability stays chronically low. Okay, driver number 3, you're cutting protein too low. When former athletes try to lose weight, they cut overall calories, which means that if you're dropping to 80 to 100 grams a day when your protein should be at 180 to 220, that's going to kill you. There was a study ran at McMaster, and 40 young men in a 40% caloric deficit, 6 days a week of intense lifting and sprint intervals. He split them into 2 groups. So one had 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram, and the other ate 2.4 grams per kilogram. The high protein group gained 1.2 kilograms of lean muscle mass while in a 40% deficit. Think about that. They're gaining muscle and lean mass while they're in a deficit. And they also lost 4.8 kilograms of fat. And so they recomped, right? They gained muscle and lost fat under an aggressive deficit. The low protein group lost the same amount of fat and gained 0 lean mass. So the protein dose determined whether you, in general, you preserve muscle or recomp, or whether you get just smaller and softer. So if you've been cutting calories without an anchor of protein, this is going to be just destroying you. Okay. Number 4, cortisol is winning. And this is, so common. This is the under talked about driver of all of this. Chronic restriction is a stress event. Your body interprets caloric deficit as a threat. We don't have food. We're not in abundance. So the stress system activates and cortisol rises and stays elevated. What does elevated cortisol do, you ask? It drives visceral fat storage, specifically the kind around, your midsection, that fanny pack area. It blunts thyroid conversion further. It impairs sleep, which impairs recovery, which impairs everything downstream. So if you're eating less, your metabolism is slowing, your thyroid's downregulating, and your cortisol is rising, which preferentially gets you to store the fat you do eat right around your stomach. And then you're eating health foods, avocados, nuts, you can see this, how this does not make for a good recipe, right? And that's why former athletes who cut too aggressively end up looking way softer in the midsection, even as the scale moves a little. So I hope this is a wake-up call for you. So here we go. Here we go. What metabolic priming actually is. Let me show you guys the system here. The bulletproof shred has 3 pillars. And athletically shredded metabolic priming, test, don't guess. Metabolic priming is the nutrition pillar. And here's what makes it different from every other approach. It's the opposite of restriction. We're going to build the engine first, and then we're going to use it. Most coaches just start with a cut. Now, depending on where you're at, that might be the right tool for where you're at. Maybe you've been priming yourself for the past couple of years and you're ready to go into that cut. But they just assume that your metabolism is healthy. And then they just need to create a deficit and then boom. But if you've been chronically restricted, and most former athletes have, or you've done a restriction in the past and you're all broken, you're all beat up, cutting a broken metabolism is not going to shred you. It's going to bury you deeper into that adaptive thermogenesis that we talked about. It's going to push your thyroid further into D3 dominance, which is going to shut down your active T3 and really it's going to be not good. And then it's going to deepen that cortisol dysfunction. And potentially, like we talked about, accelerate that muscle loss depending on what you're doing. So this is the protocol that we use. So we'll bring you up to real maintenance. We restore that protein intake. If we go all at once with protein, we're going to mess your gut up. So if you haven't been eating that protein, we're going to take it slow. Then we're going to restore micronutrient density. So we'll reintroduce you to carbohydrate volume. Your body needs to make T3 efficiently. Once again, if we go too fast, it's going to make for a rough time in the bathroom. And then we let your thyroid recover. We let your cortisol come down. We let your testosterone rebuild. Your body's going to do all this with our beautiful friend carbohydrates when we use them the right way. So only then, when your metabolism is primed, and that's why we call it priming, do we even consider putting you in a cut. Because when we do a cut, we're going to start from a strong base. And when we do that cut, we're not going to create this damage like they did with The Biggest Loser. We're going to make sure that you lose fat, preserve, or even build muscle like you see is possible in these studies. And then your body isn't going to fight you because it knows that it's being fed. It can trust you. And when we're done, we're going to prime you again and reverse you back, and you're going to stay shredded and create a new baseline for your body. This is how real fat loss and weight loss is done. This is how it's done, guys, and you guys can see over 100 guys we've done this with. The standard in the fitness industry just doesn't teach this because it's harder to sell than eat less and move more. So when we get into the 3 phases, they're right here, guys. We're going to get into these 3 phases here. So phase 1, we reverse, and then we stabilize, and then we do the cut, okay? Now, these are, like, this is, you can see this, you're probably thinking this is a long time. This would be the most extreme example, and this is tough. Like, everybody's different. Sometimes we prime for, just 4 weeks. Maybe, like I said, maybe you've come in and you've already been priming, and then we do put you in a cut, but we're not going to make that assumption. And we're also going to, for sure, get to a maintenance and see where you're doing that. Because it's not smart, and we're not going to create a really bad base for you guys and put you in something that's going to take years to fix. Because on the extreme level, I've seen that. I've seen people that have come in and really we're at maintenance and we're allowing everything to come around, and we can't go into a cut. We can't go into weight loss phase because your body's already just trying to survive. So And when we do get into a deficit, guess what? Your maintenance calories are higher. Because when we prime, we're going to prime you guys up. And then our maintenance gets risen because our body's burning more calories with that metabolism, like I showed you, 70%, right? And this is sustainable, great results here. I mean, it's just a lot like, when we look at Noah, like he was able to be in a deficit like 2,400 calories, I believe, because he was primed. He was ready to go. And then look at that. We built muscle on this one and we lost fat at the same time. So it's possible, and that's what we do. That's it. So I want to give you guys 3 actionable takeaways. Remember, it's always about I want to see you guys get the best bodies of your life and just be dialed. So find your real maintenance. Track for 7 days. If you're not tracking your food already, that's the standard. When someone comes in and they're not tracking, that's the first thing we do. Track at your current intake. You're going to find what your real maintenance is. When we do this, if you held steady, congrats, that's your maintenance of whatever you tracked. And then you can add 250 calories, not 250 calories. You can add 25 grams of carbs, okay? You're going to do that next week, and you're going to recheck. And you're going to look at a couple different things. You're going to look at hunger. You're going to look at body composition. If you're holding on to water, it's tough for me to give you guys everything. But as a base, if you just didn't gain weight, keep raising that food. It's a lot more complicated than that, but it's a good place to start. Obviously, we got to anchor protein at 1 gram per pound first. That's going to be the first thing really when you're tracking. We got to hit our protein floor before we do any sort of subtraction. And so you guys do that, that's going to change your life. That's it. And really, if you could go 1 to 1.3 times body weight for your protein, okay, that's going to be super huge for you guys. And it really, I think that's great. So if you're already under maintenance, reset again before you cut. Never ever go into a cut without being reset. So if you've been at 1,500 to 2,000 for months, you're not ready to cut. You're in that adaptive thermogenesis territory, right? Your thyroid's down-regulated. Everything we talk about, your cortisol's up and your body's in shutdown mode. So spend 4 to 6 weeks. Have the patience to be at real maintenance before you even think about a cut. It's going to make the cut that much better. So you got to have patience with this stuff, guys. Imagine 90 days from now. You're eating more than you have in years, and your genes are looser. Your energy is back at 6 a.m. without coffee. Your lifts are climbing. Your strength's going up. Your sleep is deep. Your wife or significant other says you look healthier, and not just lighter, healthier. You can see the lines in your shoulders again. You can feel your engine running, and the scale is finally moving. And not because you've been white knuckling through 1,000 calories a day, but because your metabolism is actually doing what it's designed to do. And that's where the men I work with end up: eating more, training smarter, getting leaner, and finally understanding what their body has been trying to tell them for years. This is not for everyone. I want to be clear. This isn't for the guy who wants a 30-day juice cleanse, and this isn't for the guy who's going to take what I said and try to white knuckle it alone again and end up right where he started 6 months ago. If that's you, close the video, just run these 3 takeaways and see what happens. But if you recognize yourself in what I just described, the former athlete who's been restricting, who's tired of the spiral, who knows there has to be something better, but doesn't know what, come find me on Instagram, DM me shred on on Instagram at Nolan Olm, and I'll walk you through, see if it's a good fit and see what your situation is. Or if you just want to get right on a call, if you're serious, this is only for people that are serious, go book in for a strategy call today, and we'll change your life. That's all we do. Like I said, you guys can see this is what we're passionate about, creating a community of people that impact their family tree through their fitness. It's a lot deeper than just getting shredded. It's setting a standard that literally affects your kids through epigenetics, but then also the standard that you set and pass down to them. That's the biggest focus, and that's what it's all about. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys in the next video. With that being said, make it happen. Out.